ஆயிடுச்சு, கொடுத்துடலாம். Hi everyone, good evening. Before we start, let's do a quick audio video check. If one of you can give me a chat, in the chat window, if you can kind of prompt saying that you're able to hear me, you're able to see, then with that we can get started. I'm waiting for a prompt from one of you to say that the audio is clear, you're able to see me. Once I get that, we can get started. Okay, thanks Anisha. Thank you very much. Thank you, Umesh. Right, super guys. Uh, Good evening and very happy New Year. Wish you all. Uh, I wish 2022 is a good year for all of us in many aspects, starting with health, subsequently in terms of our aspirations and everything. That everything get fulfilled in this year. On that note, we'll get started. Before I start taking questions from you, we'll just wanted to kind of focus a little bit on starting one's GMAT preparation in the month of January. On the face of it, uh, always all of us do take some resolutions in the month of January, and therefore it's a good reason to start preparation in January. But that's one aspect of it. That's like the discipline aspect. That's like the subjective aspect of it. Let's look at the hardcore objective angle of, is this a good month to start the GMAT preparation? January is by far a very appropriate time for anyone to start one's GMAT preparation. Let's look at a few timelines. I'll spend about a minute on the timelines in terms of catching application deadlines, and therefore we'll work back and see why January is a good time to start preparation. Right? I'm going to look at three timelines. One, if you're planning to catch the US admission, right, for 2023 MBA. The MBA program starts in the month of August or September of 2023. The early round application cycle, submitting the applications, will start about 12 months earlier, which means in 2022 August, you need to have your entire application complete. What does it mean? You have a GMAT score, you have a language test score, which could be IELTS or a TOEFL, and you need to have your application essays, reference letters, the whole works ready, resume, and sometimes even a video essay. You need to shoot a video and upload it to the application portal. So all of these need to be completed by the month of August. If you're catching the fall or the August, September deadlines, the early round deadlines for next year's admission into an MBA program. Let's look at the second admission cycle, which is for programs starting in January 2023. Typically, a lot of European business schools tend to have that as the admission cycle. In that case, your application window gets advanced a little more, right? Probably by June, May end is an appropriate time to apply to those schools for a program starting May 2022 or June 2022 is the right time to apply to those programs which start in January 2023, right? And if you're looking at applying to, let's say, Indian business schools, especially the IIMs, which offer this 1 year PGPX program, for those programs, the application will start sometime around June, July, and will go on. There are multiple rounds. Some schools have 2, 3 rounds, some have only 1 or 2 rounds. They go on till November, but catching them in an early round really makes a lot of sense. So, whichever way we look at it, we're looking at submitting our applications as early as May of this year, all the way to August, September of this year if you want to catch the early round of application cycles. And early round of application cycles have their own advantages. So given that, if you want to start, let's say in June, July for the IIMs, or you want to start for the European schools in May, June, you have about 5 months from this point in time. A good GMAT preparation typically takes about 3.5 months. But let's face it, how often have we planned to do something in about 90 to 100 days and managed to do it exactly in those 90 to 100 days? It's practically impossible for the simple reason there could be some things that will come our way. There could be a family wedding, there could be things in your workplace which would require you to travel, provided we're able to travel, or there would just be a deliverable in your workplace that you're probably clocking in 16 hours with your work and you're not able to take time out to prepare for the GMAT. So let's always provide for those slacks that might come in the way of preparation, which means you're talking about 4.5 months of preparation instead of a 3.5 months preparation. So if you start in January, hopefully by April end, you would have done everything that needs to be done. That way, mid-May, you'll be able to comfortably write the GMAT and get the score of your choice. So keeping this perspective in mind, starting a GMAT preparation in January gives you all the room that you're looking for. Even if you say that, hey, I'm planning to catch only the US application deadline, I'm not planning to apply to Europe, your applications start by the month of, you have to submit your applications by August, September, let's say August. You need to have your entire application essay process started. That would take you about a month or month and a half. You can always do it in 15 days, but if you give yourself 30 days, 45 days, you can actually rehearse it. You can say that, hey, I'm writing this in the application. What is a typical question that could be asked based on this if I clear that this round and go in for an interview? So all of those trial and errors and errors of omission and commission, all of those can be ironed out. So if you have your GMAT out of the way, if you have your GMAT score by May end, you have a lot of time to really work on your application. So start your GMAT preparation in January. You can do everything comfortably, irrespective of which one of these three admission cycles you plan to catch or application cycles you wish to catch, right? On that note, let's start taking questions, right? Let's see, start with Keshav. That's the first question. Sir, I got a 660 official score yesterday, Q43 V38. My first mock I had scored a 630. Since then, I focused on verbal and brought that score up, but failed to keep in touch with quant. Does happen quite a bit, Keshav. Your mocks have given you Q49. Q49 is a very respectable score, right? 74th, 75th percentile as far as the GMAT goes, and that's a good score to have. But what you ended up getting because you focused on verbal is basically a Q43. If you have touched Q49 sometime, then I think you have it in you to get that Q49. That's definite, probably even more than that. I can even go and say you will definitely get more than Q49. Typically, look at it. See, your V was 25 when you started. You pushed it to a 38. V38 is an awesome score. And then, like, there's no two ways about it. Now, quickly give yourself about 15-20 days to ramp up your quant preparation, and next 20 days invest time probably equally in both quant and verbal. Don't focus just on one, right? Your quant is now slipped a little bit, so give 20 days of ramping this up, and another 20 days take as many mocks as you can, and also do both these things simultaneously. So when you're taking the next attempt, probably a month or a month and 10 days from now, let's say plan for a GMAT by February, and that gives you adequate room, about 50 days in hand, that you've taken your enough number of mocks and you've balanced your preparation between quant and verbal, that you would end up getting a Q49 plus and a V38 plus, and that would definitely take you to a 720 plus, right? Q50 V40 is a 740, and that's a lovely score to have, very competitive score, well balanced score. And as far as GMAT goes, you really don't need to worry about your application from that point forward. You just need to work on the other aspects of GMAT. So I would say take time, invest, and don't give too much time. If you give yourself probably 3 months from now to prepare for the GMAT, all the ramping up you've done in your verbal is probably will be lost, as in you lose momentum. Pay up for the next test. Get the test date probably 25th, 20th, whatever suits you. Before end of February, take the GMAT. You will be able to get a 740. As in, that's almost there. I can see it happening. Hey, Mohammed Abuzar, if you wanted to ask, what are your personal suggestions that one should go for live online classes or recorded classes for the preparation of GMAT and Wizako? Uh, okay, it's purely personal choice. I'll tell you why it's personal choice and explain what it is. There are two kinds of people. Uh, some of us who have inherent discipline in the way we operate, right? So we will set aside saying that, hey, I'm going to prepare for the GMAT for an hour and a half every day. And we wouldn't even say that, again, I have said it in quite a few other videos also. Don't say that I'm going to prepare for the GMAT for an hour and a half a day or 2 hours a day. That really does not work. I'm telling you about all the flexibility that people talk about and everything, right? You just set a clear 2 hour window. Say that, like, I'm going to prepare between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning, and from 10:30 and 11:30 in the night, right? 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the night, and exactly schedule those times and start getting up at, let's say, 5 o'clock in the morning. Get used to starting your preparation at 5:30 and do it for first 3-4 days. I think the various people have talked about how long it takes for a habit to form. Let's not get into it, but your habit will form in reasonable amount of time, probably a week or probably 10 days. You will get up at 5, and at 5:30 you will be at the desk. If you set 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning, and let's say 7:30 to 8:30 at night, some two fixed 2 hour slots every day, you will be able to do GMAT preparation. Conversely, you say that, hey, I'm going to prepare for 2 hours every day for the GMAT. I can guarantee you, one day in a week, if you prepared for the GMAT, you can pat yourself. So have this fixed slots. So you will start working your life around it. Right? You have working hours, right? between 10 and 5 in the 10 in the morning, let's say 7 in the night is your typical working hour. You don't schedule a lunch date in that time. You basically say that that's working hours, I can't really do that. Similarly, if you have fixed working hours for your GMAT too, you would work things around it. So if you're disciplined and you can make this gives you the flexibility basically, because you can find those 2 hours, those 3 hours which work out for you, and you can work at it, and you can work at your pace. You might find that there is a topic, let's say in sentence correction, subject verb agreement is something that's like which comes naturally to you. So you can quickly run through those videos. You can finish that entire error type in probably half an hour. Conversely, you might be struggling with evaluate the reasoning kind of a question in CR, and you might want to invest 4 hours for it. In a live online class, we go at a pace which is probably pitched a little above the median class capability. So we are going to be taking everything at a pace that we think is going to work for a majority of the people. So what you are good at, you would find the class probably a little slower. That's perfectly okay. What you are not good at, you might want to get your doubts clarified. So that is one thing that comes in a live online class. It's pitched at a little above the average. But the best part about the live online class, it works for these people. It works for people for whom, hey, I am not able to bring this discipline. I know that there are thrice a week or 2 times a week, depending upon whether you go for the weekday batch or the weekend batch, classes are going to be scheduled at this point in time. My son is in class 10 and he's attending some JEE courses, right? He's actually signed up for a live online program, and he says that that's the only way I can kind of get myself in a disciplined mode to sit and learn. Otherwise, like the 2 hours, 1 hour does not really happen. So if you think that that is going to help you, it's going to help that cause. Second thing it also happens is in a pre-recorded class, at the end of the day, you learn, you'll have a doubt, you post it in the discussion forum or on the WhatsApp group, and one of us respond to you. So it does not get cleared on a real time basis. In a live online class, you can stop me and you can ask your doubts and get them clarified then and there, because sometimes the doubt that you have would get cleared in the next video that you see. Sometimes you may not even remember what the doubt is by the time you get around to posting it. We are not so disciplined many a times. Live online class gives you that physical class feeling where you can stop, get that doubt, get it asked twice, thrice, get it cleared before you can move on to the next thing. So these are the two things. One, you have real-time interface to get your doubts clarified. You also have a discipline mechanism. Classes happen at fixed time, so you need to make sure that you are there and you attend it, and therefore it kind of gets you those 2 hours of preparation thrice a week, or like 6 hours of preparation every week, depending on which program you take, right? So those are the things. So you decide. If you're in the first category, that you can discipline yourself and you can do it, pre-recorded gives you the flexibility and the freedom. But if you think that I would rather have discipline, I would have the ability to ask the doubts and get them clarified, then choose a live online program. These are the two things that should kind of be your parameters. Otherwise, what is taught is the same. The same people teach. It's like me and Shweta who handle classes in both the pre-recorded and the live online classes. Go to the next question. Right. Uh, Keshav, if I were to take the official exam in about 10 days from now, how would you suggest to go back to? Keshav, 10 days, as I suggested, is too short a time. I didn't see this follow-up question. Give yourself about 30 days at least. So give yourself 15 days to ramp up your quant preparation and do another 15 days of mock examinations and like balancing your quant and bubble. So I'll move to the next question. Pushpas Agarwal, can you please launch separate batches for verbal and we'll come to basically doing, there's some limitations as to how many batches we can schedule. So these batch things, we'll answer it later, Pushpas. Move on. Abhishek, who should choose business analytics? Uh, think business analytics is an area where there's so much that's happening. There's so much recruitment. There's so many opportunities which are coming along the way in this entire domain, right? So if you're someone who is comfortable with basically handling numbers, right? You look at statistics and that basically entices you. The most important thing is any job that you take up, unless you have that inherent liking for it, right? You look at, as in, it could just be even cricket statistics, it could be statistics about IMDb ratings for various movies that you watch on Netflix. It doesn't matter what statistics per se, numbers per se are things that like help you, and you're able to see you're able to weave a story around numbers and get something out of it. You're able to see things from that. If the number speaks to you, if I can use that, then I think business analytics is the place that you should go for. Conversely, if you're, let's say, someone who's like comfortable interacting with people, right? And because business analytics is the hot thing right now on campus, or like where jobs are being available, don't jump into business analytics, right? You probably may not do as well a job in that as you might be doing probably in HR and personal, right? So pick the thing if it makes sense for you, if you really enjoy statistics, if you really enjoy numbers, if you think that you can make a connect between numbers, and when you see things, you can say, hey, this is what is happening. This is probably why it is happening. If you're able to make those connects, then business analytics is probably for you. Otherwise, I would suggest just do a little bit of introspection. Speak to people who know you better, right? It could be your teachers, it could be parents sometimes. And like why I'm saying parents is parents get clouded about their children. They probably many times are not able to see objectively. Get your friends or like tutors or coaches with whom you would have interacted in the past. They would be able to spot what you're actually good at. And if it is numbers, and if you're able to enjoy it, then business analytics there's a lot of scope in it. I'm not saying no, but not every one of us is going to be good in that domain. Let's get into a domain where we'll actually do very well. Therefore, we'll enjoy it and also will make sense out of it. Right. Vignesh Kamath, I'm already 3 months since I started my GMAT preparation. Intent to apply, is it possible? What are the good options? Hey, if you've already 3 months into GMAT preparation, there's no doubt at all. When you say intent to apply for this year, I assume you're planning, you're saying that I'll want to apply for a 2022 MBA program, right? You will be able to take a GMAT if you're already 3 months into your preparation, try and ramp it up before the end of January. If you can take a GMAT by about 25th of January, you will be able to catch a few round 3 deadlines, quite a lot of round 3, not few. You'll be able to catch a few round 2 deadlines and a lot of round 3 deadlines. Round 2 and round 3 deadlines, many times people say for international applicants, you probably are better off taking round 1 admissions. Yes, I'm not saying that there is advantage to it, but you've had enough of our students who have got round 2, who got round 3, and in few cases, people have even got some tuition fee waivers with round 3. So you get a good GMAT score and you can put in an application packet January end to about February end, March mid. You still will be able to catch application deadlines. And if it converts, right, don't apply to 15 schools. Apply to probably about 5, 6 schools in round 2 and round 3. If you're able to catch a round 2 or whatever, you'll definitely be able to catch round 3. Apply to about 5 to 6 schools, not more than that. This tells you two things. One, if everything goes your way in round 3, you convert it into an admit, you can start your MBA in 2022 August, right? That's a given. So you actually get your you got your MBA program starting 1 year earlier than what it would have been otherwise if you planned only for the next year. Let's say things don't work out the way you expected it to be, right? Have a good GMAT score, but because you went through round 3, you probably your profile did not make the cut, that you did not get an admission this year. All the effort that you invested in it, in terms of getting a resume in place, in terms of probably attending a couple of interviews for the schools for which you basically cleared the application round and went to the interview stage, all of these are basically, let's think of it as mock application rounds, mock interview rounds. This would help you fine tune your application to catch the early round application cycle for next year. So if you have done preparation for the GMAT for 3 months, I would suggest give yourself another 15 days maximum, or if you can even take the GMAT earlier than that, if your GMAT score is in a good range, take the GMAT. And if your GMAT is, let's say 20 points above the median schools that you're looking at, apply to it. Don't exhaust all schools, because if you apply to a school and you, let's say, do not get an admission this year, or do not convert the interview into an admission this year because you applied in a later round, and you plan to apply next year, you sure are an real reapplicant. They're going to be asking you what significantly changed in your application between the last time you applied and this time you're applying. And in about 6, 7 months, many of us will not much to say. And you can't say that last time I applied in round 3, this time I'm applying in round 1. That's the only difference that's there. That's not going to be a great answer to have. So I don't want you to exhaust all schools. Take a few schools, handpick them, and work with them. Let's see how it pans out. Right. Uh, Mahesh Kumar, I'll take your question. Just, I think 1 minute. I scrolled down a little too much. How is WorkX considered for business school? WorkX at time of application or WorkX by time of admission? Many of these schools outside India, they basically have a WorkX at the time of matriculation or the time you join the school. They probably will be counting it as of, let's say, June, July of the year in which you start your admission. Indian business schools, they'll tell you the number of years or number of months to be counted on a particular date. If you look at, for example, I am Ahmedabad, they'll say as on this particular date, might be December 1st, 2022. They'll give a date. On that date, how many months or how many years of experience you have is what they say. But schools outside India, it's on the time that you join the school. That's when the MBA program actually starts, not when you join the school. Admission, whenever it's given, that is different. Everyone starts the MBA program on a particular date. On that date, the number of years of experience is what is counted. Right. Ashwini Sundar, please explain the resume or profile building after completion of GMAT. Should we reach out to professionals for the same? If so, could you please share a few recommendations? Actually, uh, the, let's think about your entire admission process when a business school looks at you. Uh, the three ways they interact with you. The first is what your resume contains, which also has a lot of information. I'm not saying no. To a large extent, think of your resume as objective data. It talks about what you did in terms of education, what you did in terms of professional experience, how many years, what exactly did you do, what roles you held, what achievements you had, and then your extracurricular. So basically a narration or like listing down of points that you had. So that is one component, which is all a lot about the past. Second is basically your GMAT score, which is an examination which is written by every applicant, and it is a uniform examination because you will have different ways of grading which happens in different parts of the world. Same country, you will have like two different colleges in Delhi might give you two different ways of grading, and you might say a 90 here is the same as a 60 there, and all of those happen. So GMAT that way is a standardized test. The third thing that I get to see is basically how you have expressed as what you have done, and that's where the application essays actually truly come in, right? And you've got a good GMAT score, you have a decent resume already in place. You now want to ensure that it is presented in a manner that it interests the person who's reading. That they say, hey, I look at a person who's got a good GMAT score, and the story reads well. This person has a good ability to basically bring out his or her positives and also present it in a nice way. Then there is an interest to speak to them. Many times schools look at seeing whether this person is going to be a good fit, whether this person's objectives in life, in terms of professional objective, matches what the school typically manages to offer other students who have already done programs in this place. So these are the things that you're going to be looking at. You can write your application essays yourself, but many times when you're writing it, you probably may not look at multiple angles to it. Any person who is basically helping you out with this application essay editing, resume editing, and other things, they would have the experience of having gone through either a business school, or in some cases, there are even people who have worked with admissions teams of various places, which essentially means that they will have insights into what an admissions team looks at it. They'll take the same story as what you have, right? They're not going to say something that is untrue about you, but they will have a nice way of presenting it that makes the entire thing come out differently, right? So if you've gone through a good GMAT score, if you have a good resume, you want to now ensure that it is packaged very well, that when someone reads it, they basically call you for an interview. And that is as important. So if you're done, tick the first two boxes, I would say invest time, energy in identifying a good source to help you with essay editing, right? We do take up essay editing, right? And we also help students with it. You could reach out to us on the numbers which are given, and we'll be able to help you out with that. Notwithstanding that, do this investigation, check out whether that's a team that you would be comfortable working with. That's very important, because at the end of the day, it's going to be a lot of interaction between you and the person who is editing your essay. So you need to have that comfort level and the chemistry working there. Then get that done. Whether you choose us or you go with some other team that's going to help you, one thing I would suggest, take professional help, right? You might generally be a good writer, you might even be writing blogs and other things, but when it comes to telling your story, which is going to make sense to a business school, you would rather invest that energy and effort and money into taking professional help, that everything that goes into it finally comes out as an admission, and probably with some financial assistance that's going to make sense to you. So I would strongly recommend taking help for this. Rick's, sir, 24 me only 5 months of, uh, for me, only 5 months of work experience. Shall I go for GMAT? Hey, you can actually, if I look at a time window for someone to take the GMAT, a good time to actually start preparing for the GMAT is when you're in your final year of college. Especially if you're in an engineering college, quite often in the last semester, we don't have much else to do. You would have probably landed up with a placement, and you'll have adequate time to prepare for the GMAT. Why the final semester is, I'll give you the rationale behind it. You prepare for GMAT for about those 3 months, 3.5 months during your final semester. Once your final semester examination is over, before you join your job, if you got a placement, right, take the GMAT and have the GMAT score handy with you, right? Two things: the GMAT score is valid for 5 years. So then from that point forward, you basically start working on profile building. Check out what all you can do in your workplace, what all kind of roles they can do, what all extra things that you can do. That 2 to 3 years from that point in time, you have a good resume and you can have adequate things that you can write in business school application essays, topped with a good GMAT score, which has been completed 3 years back, and you can just get going into a business school. So the next 3 years from the time you finish college and you have just written the GMAT and have the score, you just don't need to worry about preparing for the GMAT. Second thing to keep in mind is basically once you start working, you will not have the luxury of time and a group with which you can prepare. Probably if you look at in many of these engineering colleges, you will easily be able to identify another 4 or 5 like-minded guys who might be preparing for the GMAT, either with this objective of taking an MBA program 3 years down the line, or there could be people who will be writing the GMAT to catch the MIM programs for which you don't need any work experience at all. Or there could be people who will be writing the GMAT to catch the deferred MBA application cycle, right? Schools like ISB, HBS, all of these have this 2+2 or the Young Leaders program, which essentially give you an admit as you complete the graduation program, undergraduate program, with a deferment that you work for 2 years and then join the MBA program 2 years down the line. For example, if you're given an admit in 2022, you'll join the MBA program in 2024. So for any of these reasons, taking the GMAT when you're immediately out of college makes sense. If it makes sense at that point in time, if you have the wherewithal to prepare for the GMAT right now, you just joined a job, responsibilities are not at there. You can actually take out time every day about 2 hours to prepare for the GMAT. Do the GMAT preparation right now, take about 3-4 months before actually work catches up with you, responsibility catches up with you. A year from now, you probably will not have the luxury of time that you are probably having right now to do the GMAT. So take the GMAT, have the GMAT score. You have 5 months of experience already. By the time you write the GMAT, it might be 9 to 12 months, depending upon how you pace your GMAT preparation. From that point forward, the GMAT score is valid for 5 years. So 2 years from hence, you would be able to actually apply and get into a business school. So it's a good time to start preparing for the GMAT. In fact, I would say it's the best time to do the GMAT preparation. Right. Uh, Ashish, I'm already preparing. Yeah, Ashish, I'm preparing for the GMAT for 3 months and trying for Indian B schools and have 4 years of experience. So could it be possible to catch first round also? 4 years of experience, will it be good? For quite a few schools, I think I am Bangalore and I am Ahmedabad. 4+ years of experience should make the cut for the PGPX programs. For the ISB, obviously, it will definitely be possible. If you have started preparing for the GMAT and 3 months into the preparation, you certainly will be able to catch round one without batting an eyelid. Right? We are in the month of January, already 3 months to the preparation. Let me even be very generous and say that you'll need another 3 months to ramp up your GMAT preparation. We are talking about April 10th, you would be done and dusted with your GMAT, right? And let's say, even if you push it, let's say you want a second attempt at the GMAT, by the first week of May, you'll have your GMAT score of your liking, right? A 720 plus kind of a score you'll have, that you'll be able to catch all round ones, no issues at all. You certainly will be able to do that, right? Umesh, I'm from humanities background, BA. Can I get admission for MBA in Germany? I'm an average student. I do not know anything about GMAT. In fact, one of our star students, his name is Aprajit. Aprajit graduated from ESMT and he is working in Germany for a consulting company. He did his BA from Loyola College in Chennai, right? I do not know what you would call as average student. This is exactly what Aprajit kind of qualified himself as. He said when he came and met us, he said, "I'm an average student," is what he said. He got a score which was a shade to the right of 650 in the GMAT, which is like decent, but not the 720 kind of a score. So 650 plus great application. He was able to get to ESMT, graduated from ESMT. He did beautifully, as in he is now a teaching assistant and in a part-time capacity in ESMT, in addition to doing his full-time job in a consulting company, right? He enjoys this. He enjoyed the school. He got value out of the school. He's one of the alumnus of the school, which the school really likes him. So he did justice to it. Only thing that I would advise anyone who's planning to do an MBA or master's program in France or in Germany or in Spain, right? Especially Germany and France, ensure that, right, see what you do in an MBA program. The MBA program is taught to you in English, no doubt at all. Your cohort will have enough, everyone who will speak good English. You will not have a problem at all. But the moment you come out of the business school, your ability to find a job is a function of how well you're able to communicate in that language. So if you're planning to do an MBA from Germany, from a humanities background, it doesn't matter what background you come from, have a good GMAT score. Probably a 680 plus GMAT score should open doors for a lot of business schools in Germany, right? Ensure that you start working on your German language right away. Right. By the time you go there, if you cleared a couple of levels and you can converse reasonably well in German, right, then that is going to be the big difference, not what you did in the school. Obviously, what you do in the school will matter, but that is I'm taking that for granted. I'm not even saying that you're not going to do well in the school. You necessarily will have to do well in the business school, but you also need to have good competency in the language, be it French or be it German, depending upon whether you go to Germany or you go to France. You need to have competence there. Otherwise, whatever you do that, you probably are going to be looking for a job in an English speaking country after having done an MBA in Germany. Uh, that is playing a defensive game. I would rather that you get the language in place and get value out of this program. Right. Vignesh, already 3 months. I think I've answered that. I'm targeting 2023 intake for schools in GMAT. Ashwini, I think in that case, you have a lot of time, not to worry at all. Right. Uh, I Sir, is it possible to apply to colleges for 2022 if I write GMAT on February last? Started preparing with Wizako from December onwards. Robin, Wizako, February end, I think it'll be a little tight, but it's still not out of reach. Take the GMAT, see what your score is. We can have this conversation even in the class, not post class. You can have it, or you can send a WhatsApp to me as your GMAT score is available. GMAT score is very good. Then I would definitely recommend that you apply in round three. But if it is not great, then we'll have a relook at it. You can always, as in like, let's keep this conversation going outside of this YouTube framework. Not to worry at all. You can always reach out to me and Shweta, right? Uh, Curious Monkey, does hard work succeed in GMAT or sometimes it's inherent? I was thinking of hopping onto the GRA trail since I genuinely find GMAT to be a tough cookie to crack having prepared for a year. Uh, see, GMAT is a standardized test, right? The questions come from a reasonably well defined set of concepts that they test. Having said that, it's not an easy examination at all. My thing is, we've prepared for a year. I don't know how you went about your preparation. I'm not talking about where you prepared or whom you prepared with, right? The easier thing I would say is like basically you would have taken mock examinations and have figured out which components come naturally to you that you're able to score well, and there are parts of it which are not going to work for you. Let's say sentence correction is an area where you're struggling. Then my only suggestion is basically take sentence correction and invest about 30 days or 40 days because you've already given a year. So you can easily give another 6 or 5 months to ramp it all up. Focus only on sentence correction, or let's say only on, like say, algebra and math, depending upon which are all the areas you think you need improvement. Invest about 30 to 45 days in it. Get that in place. Then move on to the next area that you want to work on. When you're working on the next area, obviously what you did here is going to dip a bit, but it is not going to be at the place where you started. You probably ramped it up to this, it would come down to this. Work on the next area, take it up to this level, and then move on to the third area. Probably identify there are only 3 4 such blocks, right? It's basically reading comprehension, critical reasoning, sentence correction when it comes to verbal, and it's basically algebra, arithmetic, and geometry when it comes to math. So we are talking about 6 broad areas in which you're going to be working on. Even if you give about 20 25 days to the easier parts and about a month to the other, in about 5 to 6 months you should be able to ramp it up. So pick one thing, focus on it. When you're preparing, especially if it had not worked out for a year for you, there's no point trying to do everything simultaneously. It makes a lot of sense to give all the energy and time. So you'll pick all the material that's available. You'll look at as much resources that you can get for improving that one particular area. Focus would help you get there. So that's probably what my advice is. GRE definitely is an easier examination in terms of the verbal component. It is more vocabulary in addition to reading comprehension compared to the GMAT, and many business schools accept the GRE also as a score for the admission process. But having said that, if one were to just go by statistics as it is available, 80% of the students who join a business school tend to have a GMAT score with which they've joined. We do not know, is it because 80% of the applicants sent a GMAT score, or is it like more students with GMAT scores are, as in GMAT score is preferred to a GRE score? That's an information that's not available in the open domain. So we probably do not know public domain. We do not know have that information. But 80% of any good business schools admitted students have joined the GMAT score. That probably says that, hey, why not look at the GMAT than the GRE when it comes to a business school? This is my word of advice. But there are students who go through a business school through the GRE. Give yourself this one attempt. See that you'll just look at CR or AC. I'll invest time in it. See if I can ramp it up in 1 month. If you see significant improvement by just focusing on one area, then that gives you the motivation to look at doing this for the other areas and then do one complete revision over a month and look at the GMAT. But if you gave a month and you realize that you're still not made much headway in that one particular area, then it is time to reassess GMAT and look at GRE as an option. Pratyansh Sahai, I have 7 years of work experience. Which field will be suitable for me in MBA? Pratyansh, a couple of things. If you come with 7 years of experience, one of the things is whichever area you already worked in, if you think you don't have any reservations of going back to that area, that would probably, for example, let's say you have worked in information technology, which is predominantly where a lot of Indian applicants come from, right? If you want to continue in the information technology space, I'm not talking about coding necessarily. It could be in sell-side software, it could be buy-side software, it could be in other components of the entire information technology space. Then a lot of the experience that you had pre-MBA would suddenly start making sense, that your ability to negotiate a position and pay post MBA will be that much better. But on the other hand, there are some of us who will say, hey, I just don't want to be in this space. I'm actually doing an MBA to shift from A to B. In that case, yes, that's certainly possible. Find out what that space is. It's too open to answer what is a good space. What is a good space is a function of what you want to do and what you want to. Always also do a background check. For example, if you've done information technology for 7 years and you plan to get into sales and FMCG in the US after doing an MBA, that is going to be a little more difficult to find, because there's a lot of reservations about recruiting people who are not from that particular country for, let's say, a fast moving consumer goods sales position, because that would require networks, that would require people who know how that culture works and do all of those things that are required to make that sale happen or that connect happen. So coming from a different country, so if you're aspiring to move from information technology to fast mover consumer goods sales in US, probably not a great idea. But if you're moving from IT to business analytics, you're moving from IT to, for example, investment banking research team, those are switches that you can easily do, provided you like it and you want to work towards it, right? So switches are possible. Ideally, if you can have some extension of what you did pre-MBA, you're going to be able to leverage that and negotiate better at the MBA level, right? We have another 10 minutes, guys, and so I'll take a couple of more questions, answer that, and we'll call it a day with that. Look at Abhishek. I'm planning to for September intake. Okay, I'll move on. What is the average time to prepare for the GMAT preparation? Average time for anyone who is serious about GMAT preparation is between 90 and 120 days. 3 to 4 months is all that you need. And how much time do you invest every day? Give yourself 2 hours every day to prepare for the GMAT. And probably if you can double that time during the weekends, that's more than sufficient. So talking about 5 into 10 and then another 8 hours during the weekend. So 15 to 18 hours every week during 7 days is absolutely sufficient to make your GMAT work for you. And a couple of things to keep in mind. There will be areas which are very comfortable with. If I were to start a GMAT preparation today, I would typically start with the areas which will give me momentum, right? Arithmetic is something I'm really, really strong at. So I'll probably start with arithmetic, ramp up those topics quickly. So I'll probably be able to do 2 topics in a day, one in the morning, one in the evening, because I'm really comfortable with that domain. That essentially says that if I'm able to finish 7 topics in, let's say, 1 week, because those are topics I'm comfortable with and I've ramped up my preparation, that gives energy, momentum to start looking at things which are slightly more difficult. On the converse, if I started with, let's say, geometry or with permutation combination, having lost touch with education for about 7, 8 years, permutation combination is a speed breaker topic for most of us. So if you start with permutation combination, you would not make any headway. That probably is not going to work. So thing is, be it verbal, be it quant, pick areas which you think are naturally convenient places or comfortable zones for you. Get your GMAT preparation started there. Build that momentum that you're crossed enough that after that, that momentum itself will take you forward. 3 to 4 months is sufficient. Neha, how should we consider Canada or US to do MBA if the target is to work in technology companies? Having worked in technology space for 7 years, uh, both places have brilliant schools. US has got way, the one single country which has the largest number of good schools is US, and opportunities for people who want to do anything post MBA in the information technology space is also immense, right? Complete your GMAT to start with, and in the meantime, start looking at schools which are ranked well both in the US and Canada when it comes to this information technology recruitment. Every school will have IT companies recruiting from there, but there are schools, for example, Seattle-based schools will rank better. West Coast schools will rank better for people who join startups, people who join information technology companies. So those are places that you can look at. The charm with doing an MBA program in Canada is that Canada is very immigrant friendly. So if you're looking at a long-term proposition to basically complete an MBA, get a good job, and probably if things go well your way, you like the place in terms of both the job and the country, you wouldn't mind relocating and like get a permanent residency and a citizenship. Canada is a much better option than the US, because US visas, we have read enough stories, we know enough things. There are people who do not manage to get their H1B renewed. H1B is a lottery, so therefore everything could go your way. The lottery may not happen and you may not get an H1B. So all of those things come with the US thing. US MBA is great. You might probably do the MBA, and if you don't manage to get an H1B, you can look at a job in Canada, you can look at a job elsewhere. But Canada per se is very immigrant friendly, especially people who go for these higher education courses such as MBA and get that kind of a job. Things are really, really easy. And Canada, the social security system itself is beautiful. We have a student of ours who's now, I think, become a Canadian. He was a PR. I don't know whether he's become a Canadian citizen. Arun Ganesh is this gentleman. He studied from Rotman. He's working for the financial services sector. He's extremely happy about the quality of life, right? So lots of things that go in favor of Canada. Both these places are good, have good schools, uh, and we can look at them, right? Look at, can anyone get admission to 2-year PGDM HRM program in XLRA, SPG, and MDA by scoring good in the GMAT? I do not know about the XLRA 2-year program that admits Indian students using the XAT. The other two places, MDA Gurgaon, not for Indian students for the PGBDM program. I think SP Jain will admit, just do a check. I'm not sure. I think SP Jain will admit people with a GMAT score. They would say that you either present the XAT, CAT, or a GMAT score. You can say which score that they should consider if you're writing all of these three examinations, and you should be able to apply to that place. The other two schools, Ferrombaret, both XLRA and MDA, may not be able to do it. Let's just check that. Right. I'll take one last question. This is from Agrodip. Sir, I'm from mining industry, geologist by profession. GMAT, once I want to work in consultancy in near future with MBA in operation management in India only. What do you suggest? I have 4 years of experience. Uh, Certainly, see, one of the things is if you look at the typical Indian applicant pool, these would be people either engineering background, information technology, engineering background, fintech kind of a background. These are the largest applicant pool. So anyone who comes from a core sector typically tends to bring in diversity to the class. You have 4 years of experience, geologist by profession, working in mining industry. These are people who, from an applicant perspective, you're not going to find three people like you in the same applicant pool. So therefore, you bring in diversity to it. So if you're looking at Indian business schools, yes, ISB is a good option with just this number of years of experience. If you're planning to probably look at admissions for 2024 MBA applying in 2023, I think it should open doors to all of the PGPX programs. You'll have 5+ years of experience, and there should be no, you need not even worry. And tremendous opportunities if you want to be in India, if you want to be in ops, all of these schools will open doors to great jobs and great career options. You should definitely go for it. My suggestion is take the GMAT, have the GMAT score by June of this year. Start applying the schools for which you can apply. Definitely can apply for ISB this year itself. And if by then, if you cross that number of months of experience required to apply to the other programs, 1 or 2, you can apply. Otherwise, shift the entire goalpost of applying to those schools by a year. Certainly, you're postponing it by a year. It would make a lot more sense to get into a top school like the IIM or the ISB and do an MBA, even if it is 1 year later, than settling for probably some of those schools which are decent but not the best of the schools to do an MBA. So work towards getting into the PGPX programs, the IIMs or the ISB. Take the GMAT, apply to ISB this year. If your number of years of experience is not enough, apply to the IIMs next year if you don't make it to the ISB this year. Right. So this will call it a day, guys. Again, to wrap this thing up, uh, this is a good time to get started with your GMAT preparation. Do your GMAT preparation for about 3 to 4 months. Wrap it up by end of April or like mid-May. Take the GMAT by May end, June 15th. Have your GMAT score with you latest by June 30th. Right. Resolve to do that. It's definitely possible. These 5-6 months of investing about, let's say, 18 to 20 hours in the GMAT preparation is going to go a long way in terms of then planning things out the way you want, right? You could choose to apply for 2023 MBA. You can say, I just have 5 months of experience. I'm going to be applying only in 2025. I'll do my entire profile building, right? The places where you would have just not done anything other than study and like work in a place. You might want to establish some connections with NGOs and like build your profile in that direction. You might want to pick up foreign languages. So like even if you're planning to do an MBA in an English speaking country, if you're conversant with one more foreign language, right? If you're conversant with German or like say French or with Mandarin or Spanish, all of these are going to add weight to your resume. So any employer who's going to recruit you knows that, hey, you've done an English medium education all your life, done an MBA in English in an English speaking country, but you're also conversant in German. That would give you an edge every time. What we look to do, why are we doing an MBA? We are doing an MBA to basically pitch our case better to a potential recruiter, right? And to get that good job that we both enjoy the job and it is also financially remunerative. So these are the two things that we are doing. So do everything. If you have your GMAT score and you have 2 years, 2.5 years, right? You can pick up, if you're someone who is looking at business analytics as a possible area you want to work with, you can improve. If you've not done programming at all in the past, right? You can possibly pick Python, R, all of these business analytics related stuff that you can pick up. You can pick up foreign language course. If you're planning to go into financial area, you can do some courses which would be with the NSEs and get certifications for that. The multiple things that you can do, even if you do not plan to catch the 2023 admission cycle. If you're planning to catch the 2023 admission cycle, there's no questions asked. You should start your GMAT preparation right now. On that note, thanks for being a part of this entire Q&A session. Next, from this month on, we had a brief hiatus last couple of months. We couldn't get these sessions going. We'll start these sessions next month, once a month. And we also planning to roll out cases where we are planning to invite some of our alumnus who can come and talk about, for example, Aparajit has said that he would like to be a part of one of these sessions and help answer any questions related to German business schools, ESMT in particular, and German business schools in general, and how to find a job, how is Germany for immigration. He'll walk you through that. Planning to get Arun Ganesh about Canada on one of these things. We're also trying to see if we can connect with other business school alumnus and get you to give those perspectives. So stay tuned. We'll keep announcing these sessions and we'll also tell you what those sessions are. It could be a generic session such as this where Shweta or I will be hosting the session, or it could be one where one of our alumnus who's gone to a business school and has migrated to another country might host the session. So you can basically pick and choose what would be of interest to you and be a part of it. Wish you all a very happy new year. Stay safe and see you next month. Bye bye.